Hello and welcome to the Small Business Briefing. I'm Brian Kelly, CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Sarah Miller, Vice President of Marketing and Strategic Communications, and we want to welcome one of our new premium members, Mike Shapbuilder. So thanks for joining. All right, Brian, let's get right into our top story today, which is a statement that Jerome Powell made late last week about interest rates. What did he say?
Yeah, so this is the chair of the Federal Reserve Board of Directors. So this is the group that decides the overnight rates that banks charge each other, which is what a lot of other rates, including if you're a business paying prime rate, but also filters into the other longer term loans, including mortgages. That overnight interest rate is the thing that the Federal Reserve controls. And for a while now, it has been on a multi-decade high, about a 20-year high at 5.3%. And we've heard kind of back and forth about, not quite time, things are going in the right direction. And the chairman said last week that the time had come. And so it says the time has come for the policy to adjust. And what the policy talk about there is fiscal policy, the monetary policy of the Federal Reserve. And in this case, what that means is lowering interest rates. Really, the big question in my mind now is whether or not they go down by a quarter point or a half a point in the September meetings. We're definitely going to see a cut in September. What we don't know yet is it going to be a 0.25% reduction or a 0.5% reduction. Now, if I were going to bet on it, I'd say a quarter point, because moving a half a point at a time is a bit unusual. What a 0.5% cut would tell me is that they feel like they waited too long to start this change. So I'm in some ways, I know there'd be successive, there might be two cuts this year. And so it might end up being a 0.5% reduction in this year. But if the Federal Reserve reduces by 50 basis points in one step, it'll tell me that they're more concerned about the economy, that there's things that they're seeing in the data that, wow, it's really slowed down too much. If you look at the history now, in the last 3 times that they cut it by a 0.5% in one step and changing their monetary policy, and each time the country went into recession. Now, that's not to say the interest rate cut caused a recession. No, it's the opposite. It's a stimulus. But usually what that means when they feel like they have to move that quickly, it's because they waited too long in order to change it.
All right, and I know there's several factors at play here. There's like 3 we want to talk about. Let's start with inflation.
Yeah, inflation is the thing that we've been talking about, of course, for a few years. And so it came in the CPI, which is actually not the Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation. There's several ways to measure inflation, but the one that everybody pays most attention to are the ones on the news, the Consumer Price Index, 2.9%. There's nothing magical about it being under 3%, but it is an indication that it's getting very close to the target rate of 2%. And so the fact that inflation has fallen to a level to where that target is within sight, seems within reach, and the kind of upward cost pressures have abated quite a bit, makes it a much easier reduction. This is the first time since March of 2021 that inflation has been below 3%. So that overall rate is what it means is that they're less afraid of inflation now. And you've heard me say before that this is there are 2 things that they're supposed to do: protect jobs and price stability. And so it's all, softening economy and price stability are often working in the opposite direction. So the question is, which are they more afraid of? Are they afraid of a worsening economy, or are they afraid of price instability or price increases? For the longest time, their main fear was price increases. And I think they're getting to a point where now price increases they're not so afraid of anymore. It's a softening economy.
All right, another factor that kind of makes this rate cut a clear choice is the jobs revision.
Yeah, it's not unusual to see monthly jobs numbers being revised. We talked last month about there were two concerns. One was that the labor market was cooling off. The other was that most of the new jobs were in areas that were heavily reliant on the government. So government jobs, healthcare, and education. But there wasn't a lot of private sector job creation happening. And that was an indication that maybe the economy is getting softer. Well, on the heels of that, there was a pretty big revision down, 818,000 fewer jobs that were created this going back through last March. So they revised monthly jobs numbers going back several months. And it means that the jobs were overstated in each of those surveys. It doesn't mean that the Bureau of Labor Statistics screwed it up or did anything wrong. They're just interpreting survey information. So you're asking, but this, like, what potentially does this tell us? The numbers were softer than what they originally thought. Is that maybe some hiring plans didn't come to fruition, that there were some positions that didn't end up getting filled. Remember, Sarah, when we talked in the spring, coming out of last winter, a lot of our members were telling us that while they had open positions, they were deciding to pause those hirings, that they were going to wait longer to see what happened. It's just amazing to me how often we will see things among our members before they show up in the official government statistics. I think this is yet another indication that they went back now and had to revise those numbers down by a pretty big clip. So what already looked like softening numbers looks like clearly cooling off of the jobs market, which means that especially inflation is not going to be their main concern. But it's important to indicate, though, they didn't revise them so that they became job losses. What they're saying is that the gains were much smaller, more kind of anemic looking, but not to the point where it looks like the economy kind of teetered over the edge and is headed for recession. That definitely means recession risks are higher in the future, but not that it's a sure thing. Just means that things are cooling off and looking a lot softer than they did before.
All right, and one final factor that plays in here is unemployment.
Yeah, so we saw unemployment that that has risen both in our state, in the state of Michigan, and also on the national level by pretty similar amounts, kind of moving together. And it's not just that it went up, it is still, from a historic standpoint, pretty low on the national unemployment rate. Let me see here. I've actually just got the state's number here at 4.4, still historically a low overall low rate, but we have seen a series of just small upticks in unemployment. When you consider how constrained our workforce is, any increase in unemployment is magnified a little bit because we don't have a lot of extra people around. It's hard for the unemployment rate to spike a lot when you have the type of demographic challenges that we have. So these types of changes, even if they're kind of modest month by month, you string together 3, 4, 5, 6 months in a row of generally worsening conditions, then yet again, it makes that decision for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates that much easier. And so I think all those things came together to say, okay, not so worried about inflation anymore, starting to get more concerned about the economy. We're going to take some steps to start loosening the monetary policy of the federal government. And the biggest tool that they have are interest rates. Buying mortgage paper is another tool that they have in the toolbox of expanding the balance sheet. It's a way to kind of using debt to create more cash in the economy, essentially. No indications really that they're going to loosen up the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve, but this interest rate policy, we're going to start seeing it come down. I think we're going to see it come down several steps in a row.
All right, well, we'll find out for sure in September. All right, so Brian, we have invited a special guest to join us today. Mary Klein is the owner of Onsite Wellness. Onsite Wellness is a new benefit that SBAM is offering our members and that we're using ourselves here in the office. So I'll turn it over to you for that conversation.
All right, very good. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. And we are so excited to be able to offer this to our members as a member benefit. And I thought what might be a good idea is just for you to provide an overview. It's still pretty new in the suite of offerings. So You can probably assume that many of the people that are watching today haven't know a lot about it, or haven't heard much about it yet. So maybe just an overview of what the wellness program is all about.
Right. Great. Thank you and for having me. The SBAM Wellness Program, I guess an easy way to look at it maybe is that SBAM is this big entity and we're offering a wellness program, and all the groups within it are going to be like departments within the entity. So the same program is out there for everyone. And our it's full of challenges and education to really encourage healthy behavior. So we look at wellness as being a lot more than what we eat and how we move. In fact, after hearing Brian talk, financial wellness should be the biggest piece of everything. But anyway, there's programs really for everyone. It functions around mental health, physical health, all the emotional stuff, financial, all those pieces are in there. And there's enough choice within the program, I believe, and Sarah and Brian can comment on this, enough choice that you can pick and choose as a participant what you would like to work on yourself. But basically, it's out there to encourage healthy behavior. A business what do I want to say here? As a business owner, if you get involved in the program, you can choose one of two programs, but what I want to say is those programs really are identical. The difference between the two programs is if you want to offer an incentive for participating and what you want that incentive to be. So when you look at it, you see a SBAM wellness program and a plus, but really the difference between those two are the end reward to the employee if you want to offer one.
So let's talk about like our members, people that own businesses, and you're one of them. So you'll
Yep.
totally get this. Like a lot of times what people want to know is like operate, to kind of go straight to operationally how it works. How important is it for the business owner, whoever's in charge of the program, to be engaged in its development and laying it out there for the team?
That would depend on how successful you want it to be. So if you want your program and your employees to jump on board, the best way is to lead by example, right? In all that we do. So same applies for a wellness program. So whether you're participating in something or just encouraging it by talking about it, and we try to offer certain challenges that everyone participates at the same time instead of just picking and choosing your own all the time. So that can create some water cooler talk if you want to look at it that way, whether you're in person or virtual. What I didn't say is the entire program is virtual. Very easy mobile app that you participate in, but you can definitely have some competition within your own groups if you would like.
Yeah, it's really a great feature that you can tailor it as an individual around what you're interested in, what you feel like you need, but then also to make a competition out of it, have some fun with it. And you had mentioned a little bit about two types of it's like the same program, but really what are the incentives, and does one of the businesses participating want to provide incentives at the end of it? Could you maybe give a couple of examples of things that you've seen that have worked well?
We've pretty much seen everything from no incentive to pretty substantial incentives. So sometimes people or companies decide to wrap their incentive around a health plan and give premium discounts. Some are just around, hey, there's 4 corporate challenges throughout the year, and everybody that participates, we're throwing your name in a hat, pulling a name out who participates, and they get $100 bonus or something. To probably the easiest and simplest as far as administrating it is there is an incentive reward system built right into the portal, into the wellness portal, that when you as a participant earn points, you can redeem them for gift cards. And that's that plus program. And that's really a simple, streamlined way to give rewards if you choose to give rewards. But if you want to give shirts with your company logo or water bottles or anything that you have around, or choose things that are based on your company culture, we will give a report to you and you just provide the incentive. But if you want us to do all the work, the wellness program to do the work and make it easy, you choose that plus program and just redeem for gift cards.
Awesome. Well, so let's finish up with just the mechanics here of what does it cost to participate in the SBM Wellness Program? And then if somebody wanted to dig in, what would be their first step?
Cost first, there is a small implementation fee that's $250. That's a one-time fee. And then you pay by employee. So it's $7.50 per month per employee. So whether you're an employer that has 3 employees or 100 employees, and we bill you each month for that. To get started is pretty simple. You just go on the website under the members resource pages, and you'll find more information that Sarah has or that's up there, and how you really enroll is right there. If you have questions, you can ask through that. Allison on our team will get back to you. Once you do enroll, then we have a onboarding package, I guess you call it, that you will get, and it gives you all the ways that you can posters, whatever that you need to put up for your employees to announce the program, ways that you can do that. And we really want to help you through all of those pieces, make it as easy. I know as a business owner, we don't have time. We don't have time to do all this stuff. We do need someone on your team. It can be you, it can be anyone, to kind of take the lead and be the point person. But we will make it as easy as possible to run that program and to.
Great insight, great feedback, and also so affordable. You know, we had been kind of looking around for a wellness program that we could see kind of fitting in the budget of our members. This one has so many features. It's just such an awesome program, and something that that really could pay big dividends with your and the health and the wellness of your employees, but also just at a rate that can fit in almost any budget. Mary, thank you so much for developing this. Thank you for the partnership with SBAM, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mary. I popped open the app that goes along with the wellness program while Mary was talking, and it connects with a fitness device if you had one. So some of the things are just automatically tracked, which I love. You get credit for reading books. So if you're a reader like me, you get credit for that, and then just simple well visits as well. So it's a really great program. I did drop the link in the chat here on Zoom and on Facebook too. So take a look and let us know here at SBAM, just sbam@sbam.org if you have any questions.
One of my favorite features, and I don't know if Sarah and Brian, if you even know about it, but if you're in a challenge, once you sign up for the challenge on the portal, or on the app, you can ask it to send you text reminders. And so if it's anything that you're counting, like books or whatever, but if it's a count or a yes, no type of an answer that you're given to the mobile app, you can set it up to text you every night. You can set it up to text you once a week, however you want that, whatever time you want. And when you answer back, like we just did a challenge to do 1,500 squats. Now, I wouldn't suggest that for all groups, but that's what my team made me do. And all I had to do is text back that I did 30 or however many ads are right into the portal. So it really does have a lot of nice little features.
Absolutely. Thanks for making it so easy for us, Mary. All right. So Brian, another big story last week was that a federal court struck down this, what we called a questionable ban on non-compete agreements. So what does this mean for our members?
Yeah, when we first covered that this rule was proposed, and then a final rule published in the spring. It was set to go into effect on September 4th. And it was billed as a ban on non-compete agreements, which is pretty problematic for certain types of industries. But it actually went way further than that. I think it would be better described as a ban of non-solicitation and in protecting your customer list. So essentially, anybody who worked for your business could take customer lists, leave your employee, and then use that as the prospects for their next employer. So it was a very, very wide scope of bans of agreements, and one that we thought was pretty problematic. What made it most questionable, though, is that it was passed by the Federal Trade Commission. So this was not a Department of Labor thing, and so it wasn't. They didn't really tie it back to where they got the statutory authority to pass it. Basically saying that non-competes fell under the Federal Trade Commission pro-competition, as in like stopping monopolies. Well, that was say a very creative use of an agency to do something that it hadn't been used for in the past. Well, the federal court had pretty strong language here. This was Judge Ada Brown from the U.S. District Court in Dallas, but this is a nationwide ruling that the rule was unreasonably overbroad and without reasonable explanation. And it says the court concludes that the FTC lacks statutory authority to promulgate a non-compete rule, and that the rule is arbitrary and capricious, which is it's a legal standard, which makes it illegal. So it was struck down. And what that means is that at this moment, instead of non-competes being essentially nullified on September 4th, it reverts back to, or the status quo stays. So nothing changes from before. This is not the end of this battle. The government will likely appeal the ruling, and it'll move up the food chain from there. Unless they do look at it and say, you know what, you'd have to pass, if you want to ban these, you're going to have to pass a statute. And I think one of the things that might cause the federal government to question whether or not they appeal to the Court of Appeals is that Chevron case that we've talked about several times. So this U.S. Supreme Court overturned a precedent that went into effect in the 1980s that essentially said that federal government agencies can do anything that is not expressly prohibited in law. I'm oversimplifying it. Their decision was more complex than that, but that's the gist of it. Is that it was for a while that the agencies could pass any rule that there wasn't a law saying they couldn't do. And so that went back to saying, no, for an agency to operate, they can only do the things that they are authorized to do in law. They have to be able to point to a statute and say, here it is. This is the authority to promulgate this rule. And in this case, I think they're really going to struggle to do that. And so perhaps with the Chevron case and this court decision, it won't get appealed, but likelihood is these sorts of things usually get appealed. Probably not the end of the story in this particular case. Definitely not the end of the story on the issue as a whole.
But we will absolutely keep everyone posted as it plays out. All right, Brian, there are some big Michigan names making some changes. So I have a couple of quick hits for you to talk about what's happening and how that might impact the economy. Let's start with Ford.
Yeah, so Ford has been backing off on several of its longer-term strategic goals to transition the fleet to electric vehicles. And it's not surprising because consumer demand has just not been what they're expecting, even with very, very heavy government incentives or subsidies for the purchase of electric vehicles. The market just isn't there. And so they had been backing off. We saw them scale back actually the plant in Marshall, Michigan, the multi-billion-dollar plant that is already under construction. So it's still happening, but it's been scaled back. So they have announced that they're canceling a long planned three-row electric vehicle crossover. So they had plans to do that, though that is being canceled, and they're delaying by 18 months the T3 electric vehicle pickup. So it'll not until 2027. So instead of on that, remember the crossover vehicles that got canceled, there's instead going to do a hybrid vehicle. And that's really where Ford has excelled in the past. Their hybrid technology has been wildly successful and very reliable, good reviews. And so rather than kind of pushing the market faster than what it was willing to go, they're going to fall back on something that the market already appreciates. Very, very efficient vehicles, hybrid vehicles relying on technology that they're very good at. And here's the thing that they know they can make money at. We talked about their earnings in the past where while they're overall profitable, their combustible engine divisions have really been carrying losses in other parts of the company, and they appear to be at the end of the appetite of carrying those losses, and they just go back and to what they know they can make money at, but then also see if if there can be further development of the electric vehicle market. It's going to take longer than the government just providing incentives.
All right, what's happening with GM?
General Motors had announced that they're eliminating about 1,000 jobs in their software services organization, and 600 of those are going to be here in Michigan, and so that those would be in the Global Technical Center, which is in Warren. So a pretty big move. I mean, these are like higher level jobs or higher paying jobs in the organization. So the competition is fierce out there. It's getting more difficult. We knew that there would be changes when they signed the new contracts last spring. They're significantly more expensive, and that meant they were going to be looking for places to cut costs. We were pretty concerned about squeezing suppliers, smaller businesses through the supply chain. But I think this is yet another example of just the type of cost pressures that they're facing. And this one's going to hit Michigan harder than anywhere else.
All right, next up on the list is Stellantis.
All right, so Stellantis, formerly Chrysler, and lots of changes since then. Stellantis is not doing particularly well. So their U.S. sales, which of course is a huge part of their business, down 21% in the second quarter. It's really out of step with the other automakers. The others have not seen their sales go down at that type of a level. They're also having more problems with the UAW now. They were going to open up a plant in Illinois that has been delayed. There's been some picketing that has happened because of that delay, and some other decisions to not send some overflow demand to a plant in Warren. So there's really there's a lot of different changes that are happening, and this of all three of the what to call the Detroit Three, but Stellantis is not a U.S. company anymore. But like that, but of those three entities, that really is the one that looks like it's struggling the most. And it's kind of a series of things in the news lately that just indicate things aren't going particularly well. And I think it might be for the industry itself, it's just kind of hitting there. They don't have the type of market power that say Ford or General Motors do. So the changes in the economy, they're showing up there, but I think they foreshadow potential risk for others.
All right, and finally, Penske.
And so Penske, of course, a huge name here in Michigan and across the country. They announced layoffs it happens to be 132 workers in Macomb County, and this was due to Kroger company shutting down a warehouse, and so that when there are bigger level layoffs, they're called warn notices. They have to file these. That's how we know when these sorts of things are happening. And then Kellanova, who's a division of that split off from Kellogg, also got purchased by Mars, but that was the one that went over to Chicago. So like the snacks division got split off from the cereal. So back when that happened, it seemed like, wow, the most profitable division is moving away from Battle Creek. but now it's being purchased by Mars, which is an even bigger snack provider. So there's just a series of things that consolidations, sales being down, layoff notices, backing off on expansion plans, all of these things adding together. I think, you started out this conversation about how the Federal Reserve is now more afraid of a softening economy than they are of price increases. That's partly because of the overall information, but it's also partly because on an individual case, some of the bigger drivers out there in the employment marketplace, they're showing some concern making decisions that would indicate that they're not particularly confident right now. So all of that points toward maybe things not coming so easy in terms of economic progress over the next year.
All right, well, that is everything we have for you today. We appreciate you tuning in. A couple of notes, next Monday is Labor Day, so there will be no show. And we are moving to a Monday only format going forward. So we value your time. We want to bring you the top hits every Monday here at 3 o'clock. But we are doing a special briefing Wednesday, September 4th about the Earned Sick Time Act and all the frequently asked questions that we've been receiving on the paid sick leave mandate. So that's available on our website if you'd like to join us then. But otherwise, have a great week, and we will be back here in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody. See you next month.